Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. All right, I'm gonna be going home in a little bit under a month now, but I'm going to see if I can look for a body cam to put on my body because I had a very upsetting situation last time on my way home to the United States. And it's one of those things I wish I had caught on camera because if I complain about it, people aren't going to necessarily believe me or they're going to say it's an isolated incident. But if I get it on camera, I will be very pleased. Let's go back to January for a moment. My grandmother had passed away December 5th, 2024, and I was here for her funeral. And she was 91 years old, and so it wasn't the end of the world, but didn't need to pay my respects. And I came here, and my dad was upset at how I grieved. I had asked my grandmother to go talk to Mary Curry when she makes it to the other side. And the reason I thought about that was my grandmother was born almost exactly around the time that Mary Curry had passed away. So I just connected the two in my head. And I asked her to go talk to Mary Curry to set me up on a blind date with one of Mary Curry's descendants. And so Mary Curry discovered polonium-210. Now, polonium-210 is actually now made from bismuth, if you could believe it. And so I took a small chunk of bismuth, about that big, and I put it in the casket, and the casket was cremated. And so, unfortunately, when I got to the urn, it was already sealed up. I wanted to see what turned of the bismuth. I really did. Cremation happens at around 900 degrees Celsius. Perfect temperature, because at that temperature, bismuth hardly oxidizes anymore because any organic material like grandmother's flesh would reduce any bismuth oxide back to metal. So there's probably a very beautiful crystal in there, but I didn't get to see it. It was all sealed up by the time I got there. Now, then I got to my, I stayed in a hostel, not this one, but I was bored out of my mind, and for some reason I still cannot explain, I reactivated a Bumble account that I hadn't used in many years, and then I realized that I put so much shit on there. I used to be very arrogant that I had to start all over again. And when I did, I met a girl here in Taipei, and as you guys know, the rest is history. And I also, not necessarily dating material, but I actually did get to talk to Mary Curry's granddaughter after that. So it sounds like the whole idea of grandmother talking to Mary Curry, it actually worked out. But unfortunately, I had a very upsetting situation on the way home. I had flown from Taipei to San Francisco. And when I was in San Francisco's airport, the TSA agent there gave me a really unwelcoming welcome to the United States gesture. What had happened was I accidentally, I'd been on the plane 15 hours at this point. I accidentally pushed the luggage cart to the TSA line. I didn't realize they shouldn't have done that. Now, it's not the end of the world, right? It's not a bomb. It's not a weapon. It's not something that's really going to cause an accident or something. But the TSA agent could have very gently told me about it. But instead, he just goes, sir, no carts in there. Like almost screaming, almost like somebody was about to bring a bomb. And he shouldn't reserve that kind of voice for when he actually does see a bomb or a gun in the line, right? That's the kind of, if he screams at everybody who pushes a cart into the TSA line, he's probably screaming like that 100 times a day. The one time he screams about a bomb, right? All his colleagues are going to think that it's just another luggage cart or it's just another person who forgot to take their shoes off, right? He's wasting his good voice for that, right? It was very upsetting because I had just come back home to the United States after 3 weeks, and that's my first impression of the United States. It was very upsetting, very upsetting, very upsetting. Now, I can't imagine this kind of behavior happening in Taiwan. I happen to realize that we have a similar system here in Taiwan. And so I'm thinking of getting a body cam and then accidentally pushing my luggage cart into security, both here at Taiwan and then later at San Francisco, and recording the difference, and then emailing TSA and asking them how they feel about that. I'm really thinking about doing that. And I don't know if anything could go wrong, though. I don't know. I did read up online. It's not really illegal to film TSA, and so I might as well give it a try. But Old School Dave, how do you feel about this? And what did he say? Did you find your passport? No, I didn't find the passport. But I'm going to curse the person who stole my passport. Will have a lot of travel hiccups in the future. Maybe they'll get COVID during their trip. Maybe they'll get stranded. Maybe they'll lose their own passport, or whatever the situation, right? Or they'll be forced to take a job like TSA and have to scream at everybody, right? I curse anyone who has longer forearms than I do. Well, that I don't. I mean, we all have differences in bodies. I curse people who don't accept that everybody is different, right? That I do curse, but having a difference in bodies, I don't curse that. But I'm really upset at the way I was welcomed into the United States by the TSA. I don't know why. Is it a big deal to not be allowed to push a luggage cart to the TSA? No. It's how he handled. He could have talked. He could have done anything other than just bark at me, right? He could have asked me how my trip was. You got to remember, a good fraction of the people in the airport are people who probably didn't want to take the trip that they had to, right? A funeral of some sort. It's probably the big one, right? A business trip that they might not necessarily enjoy, right? Right? Not everybody at the airport is on their way to Disney World, right? You got to remember that, right? And so I think he should have been a little bit more sensitive to that, right? Also, don't forget that a lot of people coming home from vacation may have the vacation might not have been all the roses that they imagined. For example, this trip to Taiwan, I might have broken up with the girl that I met last time, right? It didn't turn out that way, but there was a chance, probably a good chance that it might have turned out that way, right? So you got to, if you work TSA or you work at the airport for some reason, if you're a flight attendant, or you got to remember that not everybody on the plane is enjoying their trip, right? It's easy for the airline industry to think of planes as Disney World, as trips to the Bahamas, or as trips to Cancun. That's only probably a small fraction of all your passengers on the plane, right? I would imagine. And even then, not all of those trips are going to turn out well, right? And so I just think that the TSA agent was very insensitive. I hope he goes to hell one day. Now, was it wrong for him to tell me to put the luggage on? No, but the way he did it, he could have started by asking me about my trip. He could have said some things about his condolences for grandmother and all that, wishing me well with the date that my grandmother sent me on. He could have said anything like that before he told me to put the card away, right? It's just very. I bet if it happened here in Taiwan, that's why I want to get the body cam. I bet if it happened here in Taiwan, it would have happened very differently. But I'm going to do that. I'm going to record it. I'm going to put it on YouTube, and I'm going to shame whatever TSA agent happens to come into that this time around. I can't wait to do that. I can't wait. I'm going to put it on YouTube. He's going to be infamous for that. He's probably going to get Donald Trump from his job, and people are going to believe me when I complain. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.